When we drop a hot metal ball at 80 degrees Celsius into a bucket of cold water at 20 degrees Celsius, we hear that familiar hiss that signals that metal is cooling down. But we also noticed that at the same time, the temperature of the water is rising too. After a while, both the metal ball and the water settle at the same final temperature. Can you predict what that final temperature will be before you even drop the metal ball in? Well, most people think they will simply meet in the middle at 50 degrees Celsius, but they almost never do. Though we cannot determine the final temperature just by guessing, not at least precisely. But we are all doing this almost daily. Think about that hot tea. Before drinking it, you blow some cool air in it and bring its temperature to a safe drinking level. You mix cold water into the hot water to get the temperature just right for a comfortable bath. You wrap warm milk in cloth to keep it hot enough for curd to form. In daily life, wrong temperature means discomfort. But in engineering, wrong temperature can mean disaster. Think about the laptop or phone you are using right now. Inside, a tiny processor chip generates a lot of heat when it works hard. Engineers attach a metal heat sink to the chip so that the heat spreads into the metal and the temperature of the chip stays within the safe limits. If engineers cannot accurately predict the final temperature of the system, the processor may overheat, slow down, or permanently damage the device. Or look at the brakes of a car. When you slam on the brakes, the kinetic energy of the moving car is converted into heat inside the brake pads and discs. Engineers must predict how hot those parts will get during braking. If the temperature rises higher than expected, the brake fluid can boil and the braking force can fade, and the car may not stop as safely as it should. Even massive concrete bridges depend on careful temperature calculations. When concrete cures, chemical reactions inside it release a large amount of heat. If engineers do not predict the final temperature correctly, the concrete can expand, develop internal stresses, and crack before the structure is even complete. So, how do these engineers predict the final temperature before anything even comes into the contact? First, let's be clear that the temperature and the heat are not the same thing. Everything around us is made of many tiny particles, and those particles are always in motion. Temperature is simply the measurement of that motion, that movement of those particles. Higher the temperature of an object, faster is the movement of its particles. While heat is the energy that transfers from an object of higher temperature to the object of lower temperature. So when two objects of different temperature come into contact with each other, faster moving particles of hotter object transfer some of their energy to the slower moving particles of the colder object. Because of this, slower particles begin to move relatively faster, and faster particles now move relatively slower. This energy transfer takes place until all of the particles of both the objects begin to move with the same energy. And when we measure their temperature, we find they both are at the same temperature. At that point, energy is no longer flowing between them. The system has reached what physicists call thermal equilibrium. So, how do we predict this final equilibrium temperature? To do that, we first need to know how much heat energy is transferred from one object to the other. But the challenge is that we cannot see heat flowing from one object to another. We cannot hold it or measure it directly the way we measure the mass or length. The only thing we can observe is its effect. When an object receives energy, its temperature rises, and when one loses, its temperature drops. After thousands of experiments, scientists discovered that the amount of heat exchanged depends on three things. First, how much of the substance is present. In other words, its mass. It takes far more energy to heat up a swimming pool than a cup of tea. The more particles there are, the more energy we need to get them all moving faster. Second, how much the temperature needs to change. It takes much more energy to bring water all the way to the boiling than to simply make it lukewarm. The bigger the change in temperature, the more heat is required. And third, the nature of the material itself. Some materials, like water, can absorb a lot of energy before their temperature changes, while others, like metal, are very sensitive, and even a tiny bit of heat can make their temperature rise quickly. This property of the material is called its specific heat capacity. All these factors come together in one single relationship. Here Q represents the amount of heat exchanged. M is the mass of the substance, C is its specific heat capacity, and delta T is the change in temperature. We have discussed this equation in a little more detail in our previous video. You can check that out after watching this one. This equation allows us to calculate how much heat leaves the hot object and how much heat is gained by the colder one. The heat lost by the metal ball can be written as mass of the metal ball multiplied by its specific heat capacity multiplied by how much its temperature dropped from 80 degrees Celsius to T final, which we don't know yet. Similarly, we write the equation for the heat gained by the water as mass of the water multiplied by its specific heat capacity multiplied by how much its temperature rose from 20 degrees Celsius to the same T final. Now, since the energy lost by the metal goes directly into the water, the heat lost by the metal must be equal to the heat gained by water, which can also be written as this. In this equation, everything is known except the final temperature. By solving it, we can predict the exact temperature at which both objects will settle. The masses of the substances can be measured directly, and the specific heat capacities of common materials like water, iron, or copper have already been carefully measured and recorded in scientific tables. This also explains why the final temperature is almost never the middle value between the two. Because the final temperature does not only depend on the starting temperatures, it also depends on how much of the substance is present and what that substance is made of. A large amount of water can absorb a great amount of heat without changing its temperature very much, while a small piece of metal may cool down quickly. The balance between these factors determines the final equilibrium temperature. But there is a little problem with this solution. In real life, when we drop the metal ball into the water, heat does not transfer only between the metal and the water. Some of that energy is also lost to the surrounding air and the container itself. Once heat starts leaking into the surroundings, we no longer know exactly how much energy is transferred to the other object and how much was lost to the environment. And that makes our prediction of the final temperature less accurate. The heat balance of the system would include additional terms for the energy absorbed by the surrounding air and the container itself, not just the metal and the water. So the important question becomes, is there a way to measure the heat transfer in a system where energy cannot easily escape to the surroundings? This kind of controlled heat transfer becomes especially important in advanced engineering systems. For example, think about a spacecraft or a satellite in the vacuum of space. There is almost no air up there to steal the heat. Most of the heat generated by onboard electronics or absorbed from sunlight stays trapped inside the ship's hull. Engineers therefore need to predict very carefully how that heat will spread from one part of the spacecraft to another, and what temperature different components will finally reach. If those temperatures are higher or lower than expected, the electronics will fry or the fuel will freeze, and critical systems may stop working properly. To understand and measure heat transfer under controlled conditions, scientists designed a special insulated container here on Earth called a calorimeter. A calorimeter is a specially designed, well insulated container that prevents heat from escaping into the surroundings. In this closed system, we can assume that nearly all the heat lost by one object is gained by the other, because there is nowhere else for energy to go. This simplifies the energy balance of the metal ball and the water system, and allows us to apply our equation with much greater accuracy. This leads to a very important rule in calorimetry. The heat lost by one object is equal to the heat gained by another. Although the calorimeter itself does absorb a small amount of heat, but its properties are known and can be accounted for in the calculation. Unlike in the previous setting, where we didn't know how much heat was lost to the surrounding air, here we know exactly how much heat is absorbed by the calorimeter. This process of measuring the heat transfer between objects is called calorimetry. In other words, calorimetry gives us a way to track the invisible flow of heat and turn it into something we can measure, calculate, and predict. But calorimetry is not just a laboratory trick. The same idea is used in many real-world situations where understanding heat transfer is important. For example, food scientists use calorimetry to measure how much energy is stored in different foods. That's how the calorie values printed on the food packages are determined. Engineers use calorimetry when designing cooling systems for engines, computers, and batteries. By understanding how heat moves through materials, they can prevent machines from overheating. And in chemistry labs, calorimeters help scientists measure how much energy is released or absorbed during a chemical reaction. So even though the device itself may sit quietly in the laboratory, the idea behind calorimetry are used everywhere, from the food we eat to the machines we rely on every day. And that's the idea behind the calorimetry: tracking where heat goes and using that knowledge to predict what will happen next. If you found this video helpful, consider sharing it with someone who loves physics or is curious about how the world works. Also, if you ever feel like supporting the channel, there is a Patreon link below. And if you enjoy exploring physics like this, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep being curious.